Yo, what's up guys? So, for this one, we're going to be spending some time with my almost finished MLGS build. I guess I could call it an intelligence build, even though it is pure melee. I'm rocking the MLGS, the Moonlight Greatsword, as my primary weapon, and as a secondary I have an enchanted rapier, and I have the east-west shield in the offhand. No catalyst, no attunement slots, no pyros, nothing like that. I'm just trying to concentrate on melee for this character. Primarily just trying to concentrate on the MLGS, which is a weapon I admittedly don't have a lot of experience with. But at the moment, I have something like 20 poise, which is definitely not ideal for using the R2s of the MLGS. But it's giving me a lot of opportunities to practice my toggle escapes. Toggle backstabs, toggle parries as well, especially toggle parries. Throughout this one, it's basically a toggle parry highlight reel. At this level range, I find that getting a toggle parry, actually just like being able to throw it out, is absolutely satisfying. Because going all the way up to, 120, 135 or something like that, once you start getting into that territory, especially if we're talking like duels, like I'm never throwing out a toggle parry, right? Because it's just going to get me backstabbed. But doing it here, it's amazing. And in fact, random invasions in general are just where it's at for me. I have a 135, I have a 125, and not only do I just kind of like see the same people all the time, and like the same faces, the same builds, the same play styles, not only is that happening, but it's just kind of like, it's really, really dead, like on the random invasions front, even in the forest. Having this Dark Souls 3 matchmaking nonsense over here in Dark Souls 1, it's not working out. I didn't think the matchmaking was as bad as I do now, especially like in my last commentary or two. But like coming all the way to today, I'm definitely my main gripe with this remaster is the matchmaking and how it's killed off activity. Especially when we're talking about random invasions. Like the forest is just a shade of what it once was. I had big plans for the forest, especially for this remaster, right? Like I had plans to do like forest invasions on the PS3 version of Dark Souls, which, hey, I mean, that's still an option, I guess. But, actually, you know what? Hold up. Give me a second. You know what? Like this phantom here, this little white phantom with the Drake sword, yo, like I'm level 90, and we're in the Duke's Archives, and I'm still running into people that have a Drake sword. Just what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? Like if this was like a level 40 invasion, if this was a level 50, 60 even invasion, I'd be like, okay, Drake's sword in Duke's Archives is definitely pushing it. You definitely got carried here. But I'm level 90 in the Duke's Archives. That man did not get there by himself. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to shame that man, but I mean, I guess my bottom line to this little rant here is that guy needs to replace that Drake sword. I mean, I used the Drake sword when I was a new player. I vividly recall running into Sin's Fortress for the first time, and I started to hit those man serpents at the front gate for like 6 damage a swing. And I realized it was going to take like 10 minutes to kill both of them. I was like, okay, enough is enough. I need to replace this weapon. Something's wrong here. So, that guy's not doing any hosts any favors by dropping his white sign, rocking his freaking Drake sword at this stage in the game. But anyway, what's also great about random invasions, I find like level 90, I have a level 90 and a level 100 at this stage, and this is basically the same thing. I'm spending a lot of time in the DLC areas, Royal Wood, almost exclusively, as well as like exclusively in the Artorias Abyss of the Abyss DLC areas. But I also spend a pretty good amount of time in Painted World and in the Kiln, which is one of my favorite areas to invade. You get a pretty distinct mixed bag in the Kiln. Anything from an honor duel to, 4-man spawn campers. 4-man gang squad spawn camping. So it's kind of like a toned down version of Ulasil, because I find that you kind of get everything in between, too. You can find like a lot of 2v1s, 3v1s. Occasionally I'll find some help in a red phantom or a blue. Typically see a lot more blues out there. I get invaded by blues in the Kiln quite a bit. I don't see a lot of reds out there, though. In fact, I just don't see a lot of like fellow invaders in general, unless I'm in the forest in Anor Londo. That's about it. All the other areas, it's kind of like, it's very sparse. But activity is kind of sparse right now, and especially in the meta range. It kind of brings me back to like, throughout the entire series, I've always preferred to invade around the meta. I don't always go to 125. If we're talking Dark Souls, all of my characters aren't exactly 125, like a fucking robot or something. Like, no, my build ends when it ends. I don't always have to plan around being 125 for each of my characters. You know what I mean? I try to stay around that territory most of the time, but I'm not hell-bent on staying the same level, I guess is my point. In Dark Souls 2, I wasn't hell-bent on staying at 150. I had characters that were kind of all over the place. My builds finish when they finish, right? And I would like to level up a lot of my builds to like 120, 130, thereabouts. But, primarily just because I want to hit my poise breakpoint, and I want to hit my fashion desire, which is the most important thing for me. But the main issue with that right now is that the game is just so dead at that level range, and we're not even 2 months into the release of the game, which is really, really sad. It's a shame that they had to mess with the matchmaking system to this extent. I would be loving if I could invade max level players like vanilla Dark Souls. I would love for the forest to not be a shade of its former self. Because, again, I had some pretty big plans for forest invasions for this remaster. I had a lot of builds that I wanted to make exclusively for the forest. And I started making a couple of them, and they're just kind of dead in the water, along with meta invasions. Because I just don't have much desire to play them anymore. Because the only thing I'm going to get is duels. I don't really want to be dueling on those builds. That's not really what I had planned. Because the forest right now is just the same group of spawn campers time and time again. Which, that's alright. I don't mind running up against spawn campers, but I just don't want to run up against the same people every time. It's really soured the broth for meta invasions for me, which is unfortunate. Because that's where I'd prefer to be. It's where I've been, pretty much the entire series. But, at some point in Dark Souls 3, pretty much, after the DLC came out, once the game got revived a bit with the DLC, I was able to, maintain invading in the meta range, which was great. But then, after a certain point, it just got so dead, and, because thanks to that matchmaking system, again, both weapon and soul level restrictions, which is just preventing people from matching up. It's my main gripe here. If I could be invading max level players, I'd be really, really happy with where this remaster is at. Because the removal of dead angles, I thought that was gonna really suck. And believe me, I wish that was in the game too. But if I had to choose between Dead Angles being back in or the old matchmaking system, I would much rather have the old matchmaking system, because the absence of Dead Angles, I can live with that. Now, I'm not totally thrilled with the way I need to play sometimes because Dead Angles have been removed, right? And when you're playing up against when you're up against a really good player, and there isn't any latency as well, not having Dead Angles can be pretty rough, right? When you're trying to go up against a turtle, an S-stock turtle or something, or spear turtle, it's gonna be fucking rough without Dead Angles. In those instances, yes, it is something that's still sorely missed. But just in the general random invasion, which is what I'm talking about here, it's just something that I've learned to live without. And it hasn't been as atrocious as I thought it was going to be going into this remaster. I thought that was really going to suck. I'm not surprised that the matchmaking is as bad as it is, but I kind of foresaw some of this. I definitely have been saying that, once I saw and knew about exactly what the matchmaking was, I said pretty early on that it was going to make the game die out more quickly than it otherwise would. But I definitely didn't expect it to be this fast, because 2 months in, and to already be experiencing this sort of drop-off in activity, it's definitely a testament to that matchmaking system. Because a lot of people just kind of continued to level, and they didn't really give a shit about adhering to the meta, which that's fine, right? They shouldn't be expected to. They shouldn't have their multiplayer experience totally killed off because of I'm just gonna go ahead and say unreasonable matchmaking restrictions. The weapon level matchmaking, that's one thing. Not a fan of it, but that's not the main problem here. The problem is adding the soul level restrictions on top of that. We need to be able to invade all the way up in Dark Souls 1. It's just the way it was in vanilla, and it's affected the game a bit too much, in a very adverse way, in my opinion. But that's basically enough of that, I think. Regardless of those matchmaking changes, I've been playing the hell out of this game, and I've been trying to enjoy it as much as I can. Lately, I've been staying around level 90 to 100. My last commentary, I was at 100, I believe. I think I ended up bumping them up to 105 for a couple different reasons, but that hasn't affected my activity. I'm still able to do pretty much the exact same thing that this 90 is able to do. So I'm still enjoying the game quite a bit. I just would be enjoying it a lot more, let's just say, if I was able to get this type of activity at the meta range and this type of variety in my invasions. That would be fantastic. But at 100, you can make a pretty solid little build. There's definitely a lot more compromises that have to be made than going up to, let's say, 135, where there are basically no compromises being made. But at 100, at least for me, I'm normally sacrificing a lot of vitality. Basically, my mentality is, well, if I'm playing perfectly, which is what I'm trying to achieve, I never play perfectly, but if I'm trying, and if my goal is to play perfect, then I'm not taking any damage. Right? I basically level up my vitality to a point where it's all right, I mean, if I take an errant hit or two, then, I have enough HP to be able to withstand that. That's basically my mentality. But I'm trying to avoid making, really blatant mistakes. I still try to play aggressively, right? I don't try to, sit back and, play a waiting game or play, a counter-punch game. I still try to move forward. But that's basically my mentality. If I'm trying to make a sacrifice, I don't want to sacrifice endurance. I need stamina. I think I find stamina to be more important than health for me, and I definitely don't want to sacrifice damage going up to, you know, this type of level range. I want to have a fully upgraded weapon with as much damage as I possibly can for whatever weapon I'm using. So, you know, that really only leaves health as being a sacrifice. And I don't really know what this guy's problem was, to be honest. Just on random side note here, I'm not really sure what this guy's approach was here. But, you know, one of these common themes in the remaster, and I tried to kind of like sprinkle a little bit of this throughout this commentary, something like I've encountered every single session has been disconnects. Primarily just people that disconnect right away, like all spawn in and within seconds they disconnect. They're like, nope, not having any of this nonsense. And then they just disconnect. But also, I run into people every single session that rage quit on me. Like, they'll fight me up to a point. Like, they'll fight me for the first, like, 15 seconds or so, and then, waboom, here comes that parry, and then right as the riposte hits, right as my weapon goes through their chest, bam, disconnect. It's like, I mean, it's like clockwork, man. And it doesn't just happen once or twice, but it happens multiple times per session. And it's just like, it's something to behold. It really is. Like, I've seen a lot of rage quitting over the years and just general soft behavior from players in every Souls game. But nothing like this remaster, man. It's on a whole different level here. So yeah, I try to sprinkle a little bit of that throughout this. And another thing that like I encounter all the time in every session, this isn't necessarily a complaint or anything, it's just kind of like a side note here. I encounter so many giant dead builds, dude. There are so many legends out there, man. That meme is incredibly strong. Actually, I feel like a lot of these guys don't even play it for the meme so much as they think it's like some sort of powerhouse build, which is fantastic. It's just fantastic. But it's basically like the same encounter every time. Like, they just kind of run up to you, two-handing this Zweihander, and then they just start spamming away with the R1s. And it pretty much ends the same way every time. I try to toggle parry that every single time. It's one of the, if not the easiest weapon in the game to toggle parry. So, encountering a giant dad at this level too, it's like, most of them don't have much vitality, so they just get killed in one riposte. It's fantastic, I gotta say. So I tried to sprinkle a little bit of that in there as well. Nothing against the giant dad meme whatsoever. It's just, there are so many damn legends out there. So many. A lot of people say that they run into the Brandon build all the time. I mean, not even in like the meta range do I run into the Brandon build all the time. I run into a lot of curved swords. I feel like some people kind of mistake the Brandon build for just a curved sword build, right? I mean, I do see, you know, straight up Ouroboros clones, but more often than not, I'm running into giant dads at all level ranges. It doesn't matter if I'm like invading at like level 35. I have a character that's like level 37 right now. I ended up bumping her up a couple notches because I wanted an extra attunement slot. But I have a Pyromancer that's in the works, so that's probably what you'll see for the next one. And I don't know what happened to the audio in this clip, so apologies about that. This is actually the first time I've ever had glitched audio. I guess it's a desynced or something. Definitely not an issue with Adobe here, which is what I use to record. This is like something with Elgato, you know, my capture card. But you know, that was just yet another legend. Yet another legend. But we've actually come to the close of this one, guys. Actually run out of time, so hope you've enjoyed the commentary. We have one more fight to go after this, but hope you enjoyed basically the rant I'd say. But we'll be back pretty soon, I'd imagine. I'd say another couple weeks, and we'll have another commentary ready to go. Probably with my Pyromancer, as I said. We might do some lower level invasions for the next one. But she's on her way up to like 32 attunement. We're going to be like a true Pyromancer. But anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.